Some simmers don't care to get too invested in The Sims, but it isn't until you start taking the game seriously that the real fun begins. I'm going to let you in on why serious simmers are having more fun than most. After over 25 years of still having a blast playing this game and dedicating the last 4 obsessing over keeping track of my sims, I'm about as serious as they come. So let me break down what makes a serious simmer and what we're doing differently so you can join in on the fun. Alright, what makes someone a serious simmer? In short, serious simmers play with purpose. This essentially means we're intentional in how we approach our gameplay. Purpose is basically an intention. We also aim to play stories that matter to us, so we always play with story in mind. Story finds its way in everything we do, which gives our gameplay meaning. Every goal we choose, decision we make for our sims, fits in some context within that story. Purpose also gives our sims direction and something to look forward to when we're playing. Playing with purpose doesn't mean we play with every single detail planned out though. We can let ourselves get swayed by random events in the game, but there's usually a goal or a backstory to give us a sense of direction before we hit play. And this ultimately drives the story that we're playing. And in turn, having that direction, having that drive, that purpose keeps us focused and from being overwhelmed. This leads us to staying invested and dedicated to our game, whether that is to our save files, a legacy, a challenge that we're working on, or whatever else we put our mind to. The goal of playing with purpose is ultimately to have more fulfilling and meaningful gameplay and more fun. But don't get me wrong, there is absolutely nothing wrong with being a casual player. I do think there is something to gain from playing with intention though. You can go deeper with your gameplay, build that emotional connection with the characters you create, and ultimately it makes your gameplay feel like it matters. A core value I think it's important for us to remember as serious simmers is that we're not aiming to be perfect, just purposeful. Perfection only holds us back. I know perfectionism is a tendency, especially high amongst us serious simmers, so I just wanted to call that out real quick. Playing with intention by no means has to mean everything has to be perfect and laid out. I could talk forever about what else I think makes a serious simmer, but let's focus on 3 core traits that I think really nail down what helps us as serious simmers really play with purpose. For one, we love being creative, and we funnel that creativity into our gameplay. We serious simmers get that The Sims is a storytelling engine. It is literally engineered to encourage you to play pretend. If you don't believe me, I highly recommend checking out the GDC talk by Matt Brown that talks about the emergent storytelling techniques in The Sim. Serious simmers get that The Sims is a sandbox game and can only be as good as our creative input, and so we embrace using our imagination. Sure, each game has had its shortcomings. The Sims 4 could certainly do with better animations and more gameplay features, but the point was never to simulate every single aspect of life, and no game ever will. It's a game, not the Matrix. The game is here to support our imagination, not replace it. And so serious simmers, we lean into this fact and put thought and creativity in everything we do. For example, let's take our Sims. We take time to create in-depth characters with goals and personalities that go beyond the few traits you get in the game. We think about how they came to be who they are, why they have the goals that they have, and what's their vision for the future. And because of this, it's easier for us to make decisions for our Sims because it's almost like we know them. We're able to make choices that make our gameplay feel like it matters. We're also excited to explore and discover new things. We stay curious and find new ways to play with story instead of recycling the same storylines over and over again. Serious simmers are open to experimenting even if it's outside their comfort zone. This doesn't come easy though. I talked about how to get over this uncomfy part, this uncomfy zone in a past video, which I'll link in the description below because I know this is a tough thing to get through. And what's the next core trait that keeps us serious simmers invested? We're sentimental. If you cross any serious simmer, they will be able to tell you hours worth of lore about their save file and talk to you about their sims as if they know them. We are emotionally invested and care deeply about our sims. For one, we spend a lot of time with them, so of course they grow on us. But because we also take the time to create sims with depth in the first place, giving them a backstory and goals, they feel more real. We end up wanting to see them succeed. This isn't just a bag of pixels or a stranger anymore, our sims feel alive. We become invested in their story. And we're dedicated to the save files and legacies that surround these stories. We don't give up when things get tough. We might take a break and we might even ditch a save, but we think long and hard before we scrap a save entirely. Instead, we find ways to pivot the story into something we're excited about again. So instead of restarting, we think recycle. For example, if you're bored of a save file, maybe of a particular household, then rotational gameplay, you just swap the household. Or you come up with a plot twist to change the story in a different direction. Or maybe you have a list of storyline ideas. Instead of starting a new fresh save file for that story idea, you integrate that storyline into the one that's already existed in your save file. So you basically just build upon the lore instead of starting fresh over and over again, which honestly also takes a lot of energy. Imagine you have to get invested over and over again in these fresh save files instead of staying invested in the one you already have. Another thing we serious simmers love to do is we collect and cherish the stories we play. We spend a lot of time with our Sims and have played a lot of stories with them, so naturally this is something we want to be able to look back on. That love for the stories we play often goes beyond capturing a few screenshots. We create full write-ups of our Sims journey to make sure we remember all the fun. We create mock-ups of magazine covers with their face on one cover and create memorabilia outside of the game just for the fun of it. I guess that ties in also with our creativity, but we aren't shy to be a little bit extra with our stories and make them come to life. Moving on to the next and last core trait of a serious simmer, we're creative, sentimental, and we're organized. We really need to be organized if we don't want to lose sight of all that love and work we've put into our stories. This means we keep track of our Sims. The thing is, we want to remember everything about our Sims, everything that happened, everything that's transpired, but our memory will fail us. I know a lot of us are in our 40s or over, and so the noggin isn't working like it used to. The thing is though, if you have a place to save it all, you don't actually have to remember anything. This is why you can bet on serious simmers keeping track of their lore and saving it somewhere, whether it be on paper or in an app. It's also super practical to keep track if you're working on a challenge or building a custom save file. It makes it easier to manage things and keep track of your progress. At a minimum, we're using the Family Tree app to keep track of our legacies, because there ain't no way we're depending on that buggy tree in the game. I recommend the My Family Tree app because it's free, has a ton of features, and you can import your trees from the game so you don't have to set it all up from scratch. We also like to keep a running list of our ideas and goals. You don't always get an amazing spark of inspiration while you're playing the game. Sometimes it's when you're underway, you're in the shower or whatever, so you want to keep a track of ideas, and not every idea needs to be played immediately. Maybe you have an idea for a future generation or a later life stage for your Sims. So you're going to want to keep a log of those ideas and so you don't lose them. And that's why it's super important to be organized about them. And even if you first keep track of them in your notes app, whatever, it's always good to have a central place for them. A serious simmer is also keeping track of their installed mods. This keeps us from losing our mind on patch day when it comes to updating our mods, and there ain't no way we're risking a broken mod breaking our save file, and so this is super important to stay on top of that. We also document our stories. For example, we add context to the screenshots we collect. I know we've all got a screenshots folder that's bursting from the seams. It's nice to sift through them, but it's even better if you have context behind the screenshots. Lord knows I wouldn't be able to tell you what happened in a screenshot from 5 years ago otherwise. So instead of just leaving these screenshots in the screenshots folder to be forgotten, serious simmers document the story behind the photos. And not just for sentimental reasons either, but it also saves us time when we come back to the game, especially after a break. There's no more wasting time and wondering about what happened, who was in the photo, etc. We can just jump back into the game and we don't lose the plot. And when it comes to keeping track of these things, we work smarter, not harder. We don't keep track just for the sake of it, we know what's important to us, and we don't waste time logging stuff we don't care about, for one. To save time and headspace, you can use templates. I'm always tracking the same things, so templates are ready-made structures that I can just fill in, which makes keeping track consistent and easier. I took working smarter, not harder to the extreme. I'm very serious about being a serious simmer, and especially about being organized. It's something I've been obsessing about over the last 4 years, trying to create the perfect system to keep track of my Sims, and I managed to do that after 9 months of work. Last year, I came up with the Sim Guardian, which is a system of templates in Notion that basically help you not only collect information about your Sims, their memories, locations, save files, and whatnot, but relate everything to each other as well, so everything's connected. I'm really proud of the system that I made, and it's already helped out so many simmers. Here's a quick rundown why it is the dream system for serious simmers. Okay, real talk. If you're anything like me, you care about your Sims, like deeply. You've got legacies, storylines, save files that actually mean something to you. But let's be real, it's easy to lose track. One day you're totally invested, and then suddenly you're not. You forget who lives where, what was supposed to happen next, or even why you love that Sim in the first place. That's exactly why I made the Sim Guardian. This Notion system helps me stay connected to my Sims by giving me one place to track everything. And I mean everything. I can see my entire save file at a glance, who lives where, all the lore, what everyone's working toward. Every Sim has their own page for backstory, traits, relationships. I can even see their own businesses and shared memories. And every legacy has its own page as well to save their bloodline, heritage, and history. I can manage my rotational gameplay, challenges, storyline ideas. It's all here. Heck, I can even keep track of my mods and CC in the system. It's the most organized I've ever been. And honestly, it's the easiest it's ever been to keep track, because I don't have to figure out where to start. I've already done the work of setting things up, now I can just fill it in. So yeah, it's $100, but if you're serious about your Sims, it's worth it, because the stories you're playing, they deserve to be remembered. So as you can tell by the Sim Guardian, I take being an organized simmer very seriously. Here are 5 reasons why serious simmers are having more fun thanks to all the love and creativity and energy we put into our game. So for one, the continuity and momentum we have in our gameplay gives us a 1-up. Because we spent so much time on creating characters with depth, Sims have character arcs and can even grow over time. So it's not just a sim who we're skilling up to level 10 and then it's like, okay, for what, right? No, there was a meaning behind it. That sim wanted to reach that goal for reasons other than just to check something off. And since we aren't giving up on our save files, our worlds can actually develop and progress. Sims age and die. For example, shops close while new ones open. So we feel that continuity when we play the game. There's a history being built, and it makes the future for our Sims feel that just much more meaningful. And also, since we're documenting our lore, the history that we're building can be remembered and actually built upon. So we can look back on the history of a legacy and maybe bring back an old secret and have it impact the current generation. Because we keep continuing on the story we've created and we're not starting from scratch over and over again, we have that tailwind that helps keep our stories going. All that backstory that we've come up with, all the personalities of our Sims working together or against each other, it just helps drive things, and it also just makes it feel more intentional when we play and also rewarding because we're not working towards some arbitrary goal. And because we're so in sync with our Sims and know what they're all about and have actually put, some thought into them and spend time with them, we build an emotional connection to our Sims and their stories. Our Sims aren't strangers. They feel real and important. They matter to us. It's a lot why, for example, reality TV shows often share the backstory behind a person so that you get to know more about them and what they're fighting for. It makes them more relatable. It makes them become more human for you. So they're not just a person on the screen. They're actually, somebody you can maybe relate to more. This in turn makes you feel more invested in their story and root for their success. And the same is when we play with our Sims. The more time you spend with your Sim and experience their ups and downs, the more that bond will grow as well. That parasocial bond, actually. It's a one-sided connection, of course. Your Sims are real. But just like you bond with a character maybe in a book you're reading, you're really rooting for them, that is more or less the same thing. And so if you put as much time in your Sims as authors do in the characters they create, then you will really create a character that you will want to play with. You'll want to see things through with them and see where things go. It'll motivate us to keep playing. And also, because we care so much, that makes the stakes higher. Wins feel bigger and losses hit harder. That emotional ride is really fun. But if you're keeping things casual and just going through the motions and not really putting too much creativity into your gameplay, then yeah, I feel like it's no wonder that it'll feel flat. Another reason why I think we serious simmers are having a bit more fun is because we are saving ourselves a lot of time and frustration that other simmers might have. And we're saving that time and frustration because of how organized we are. We don't waste time scouring through our mods folder guessing which ones are up to date or not. And our game isn't working and we have to do the 50-50 method for like the gazillionth time. We don't waste time trying to remember what happened the last time we played or what plot we were trying to set up because we've got it written down somewhere. And with somewhere, I mean somewhere where we know, like a central place where all of those notes and ideas collected. And we don't battle the blank page every time we want to document what happened in our game because we have a set of templates that we can use and simply fill in. So it's super easy to build that habit of documenting because it's not, starting fresh over and over again. I think that's a running theme here. Starting fresh, while that novelty might seem exciting, it takes a lot of energy to start a save file fresh and build everything from fresh. To sit in front of a blank piece of paper and figure out today now what you want to keep track of. But if you're keeping track of the same things over and over again, and you have a template that even makes it easier to remind you and guide you while you're documenting it, it just makes it so much easier and you're saving yourself a lot of time and frustration. Time that you could use to play the game. Frustration that would otherwise maybe take away some of that headspace to have fun and be creative. And so, 2 birds with 1 stone. I think another big difference between gameplay of a casual simmer and of a serious simmer is When you're taking things seriously and playing with intention, it gives your gameplay meaning. The decisions we make in the game aren't arbitrary. They are based on our characters' wants, needs, goals, belief, and whatnot. Our choices hold weight because they are directly intertwined with the stories we play. This makes our gameplay feel meaningful, like every decision matters. This is actually why I'm not a fan of some challenges, because I feel like they give you a set of goals to work through, and yeah, I mean, you might be the type of player that likes that. You know, I talked about that in an earlier video about play personalities. You might be the achiever type that just likes to, you know, check off boxes. But me personally, I actually like to create my story from myself, from within. I think I automatically just feel more attached to a story that I created myself, that came from me, instead of adapting a story from someone else, which isn't a bad thing. I know a lot of simmers have a lot of fun with challenges. Challenges are what make a lot of simmers actually come back to the game and really fall in love with it again. So I'm not knocking challenges in general, but I feel like they can be a bit tedious sometimes. The generations can sometimes be a bit random. Yeah, I feel like as soon as you invest a part of yourself into the story, yeah, it just also from that also gains more meaning. You can decide that your sim needs to skill up to a certain level, but you also have an intention behind that goal. I think that ownership over the story, that full ownership, just hits different. And on the topic of story, I think creative storytelling is another reason why we're having a lot more fun. Again, like I mentioned, we embrace using our imagination when playing The Sims, and we enjoy using The Sims as our creative outlet, as a expression of our creativity. And because we lean into using our imagination and creativity, our stories can go in any direction. So we don't feel any limitation that the game might have. And of course, any of the Sims games have their own limitations. No game can ever fully replicate real life and simulate life in all of its detail. Our imagination can, though. The sky is absolutely the limit. So while casual simmers might feel blocked by perceived limitations of the game, serious simmers just use their imagination to fill in the gaps and add anything else that they think would be fun in their story. And the fact that we are putting energy into our stories, that creative expression just makes the gameplay inherently more fulfilling. It's like an added benefit apart from the gameplay itself. But maybe you're watching this and you're like, oh, sheesh, I'm a casual simmer. How can I actually adapt all this? Well, keep in mind, of course, if you also remember purposeful, not perfect, make this your mindset when approaching the game. Then you're already halfway there. You don't want to overwhelm yourself with a perceived notion of what it might mean to be a serious simmer or to be organized, creative, and sentimental. They can be reminders of, what makes a serious simmer, but step by step. They can be pillars, goalposts to help guide the way you approach the game, but don't feel pressured to check everything off immediately. A lovely simmer named Lucia actually left a comment under one of my videos that I think illustrates well the path you can take. So she writes, such a great video. This really aligns with my own experiences with The Sims 4. I decided to play one save file forever, but was stuck working on designing everything, trying to perfect all the households and builds before I started playing with it, and eventually I got fed up. Instead, I started a save with just a basic story seed based around a couple of mods I wanted to explore and wanting to play through the Strangerville story for the first time. Over a year later, I'm still playing that save and more obsessed with The Sims than I think I've ever been in my last 23 years of playing the games. I have so many ideas for this family and the world that I'm just constantly inspired to keep playing. I used to play such cookie-cutter families where the relationships were always good, but my founder sim in this save got the evil trait through a self-discovery moment, and it has added so much complexity to her relationships and the dynamics of her family. I love it. So, in the beginning, Lucia had this huge goal of designing the perfect forever save world, which just kept her stuck. So she tossed that and started over with a small story seed instead. She also broke out of her habit of playing cookie-cutter families and threw in a little mischief. And voila, a year later, she's still head over heels and playing that same save file and is more obsessed with the game than she ever has been. I think this is a good example of how we sometimes stand in our own way because of perfection and just end up overwhelming ourselves. A forever save file is super aspirational, being a serious simmer is great, but it doesn't have to be an overnight thing. You don't have to feel creative, emotionally attached, or be particularly organized to call yourself a serious simmer. Start where you are. Start small without any of that big project pressure. As we saw, Lucia grew her save file slowly over time, and it organically became the forever save file she always wanted. She didn't know at the beginning that this was what she really was missing, but she learned it along the way. So grow slowly and organically become attached to your game. We're going for the slow burn here over immediate satisfaction. It's also a good example of how sometimes it's more fun to develop something naturally than to set up this grand world to play in, which ultimately delays you actually play in the game. And once that big project is finally done, the one you thought was the missing piece to your Sims fun, it could end up leaving you feeling empty. That's the arrival fallacy in a nutshell. So don't fall for the arrival fallacy trap. Lore you've developed while playing might be even more rewarding than the lore you've come up with before playing. True history, after all, is the collection of actual past events, not necessarily ones you've come up with in your mind, though it can be super fun, again, all for backstory and all that good stuff. But making that progress organically at a slower pace can make an even stronger, more lasting feeling of accomplishment and enjoyment. So enjoy the journey. Some might think it's uncool that I'm still playing The Sims at 37, or that my obsession with my little pixel people is weird. Believe it or not, Simmers themselves have commented that I put too much energy in my game. Like, what? Not everyone gets it, but they can think what they want. We are having a good time, so I don't pay them any mind. Instead, I'm out here letting my geek out and sharing everything I know about what it means to play with purpose. In the process, I've learned that I'm not alone. Many of us care deeply about our Sims and crave this deeper style of gameplay. It's been amazing to read your comments and see how invested all of you are in your own saves. To finally feel less alone in my ungodly love for this game. I found my people and they are serious Simmers. I imagine you'd also love to find people that just get it. So if you're looking for other serious Simmers that are just as passionate about The Sims as you are, join us on Reddit. I already made this subreddit back in April this year, but I'm a bit of an introvert and was shy to share. I've been mostly reposting stuff, but I want to start sharing more. I'd love for you to join so we can connect. Last but not least, I'll leave you with something to kickstart your journey as a serious Simmer. I came up with the CARE method a little while ago, so C-A-R-E, which is a simple 4-step method to help you get unstuck in your game no matter where you are. Check out the video on the screen to learn more.